Yeah, I know, it's your...
For the like 15th time this weekend. Yeah, I'm Brian Thomas Schmidt. I'm an author and the Hugo-nominated editor of science fiction, fantasy, children's books, short stories, so on and so forth. I have edited novels like The Martian by Andy Weir. I've edited novels by Mike Resnick, Todd McCaffrey, Alan Dean Foster, Angie Fox, the New York Times best-selling author of paranormal romance. I've edited novels by Joe Blow, too. I've edited lots of different novels. I also edit anthologies for Bayan Books, like this one, which is coming out Tuesday, finished tomorrow, which is basically stories like The Martian set in our galaxy, in our solar system, about space travel in an age where it's no longer dominated by NASA. I edit anthologies for St. Martin's Griffin as well. I work with New York Times bestselling authors on a lot of that, and I also am the main developmental and acquisitions editor for Wordfire Press, booth 1342 here at the con. My debut novel is out from Wordfire Press. It is got an honorable mention on Barnes & Noble Year's Best. It is a space opera in the spirit of Star Wars, Moses story kind of combined. I won't go into detail. And that's kind of the gist of it. There we go.
Hi.
Let's talk about Neo Edmond. Who are you?
Who am I? I am, wow, this is loud. Or my voice is loud.
Time for some therapy.
It's fine for some therapy. My name is Neo Edmond. I am also an author. And speaking of stuff Brian's done, he edited on my book, which just came out this weekend, A Tale of Red Riding, Rise of the Alpha Huntress, which was originally an ebook, but is now a fully grown-up book. Your name is in it, sir.
I'm making sure we didn't miss anything.
Oh, he's gonna approve it now. So,
Page 23, there's a the missing.
yeah, we missed some typos, but anyway, so...
Why's the word poop in here? Oh, no.
Well, you're throwing me off, man.
You're throwing me off, man. When your editor's initials are BS, you better learn to think on your feet.
I had not occurred to me, but okay. I will keep that in mind for all future references.
Go ahead.
I've worked in many different areas of the creative industry, from the Hollywood side of screenwriting and development, and I've written in comics and a lot of other stuff. So, what is this count?
How to not get published.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all the mistakes we made before we...
Oh, yeah, I got lots of those.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, we'll fill the hour. It's not a problem.
Yeah. I can tell you all the things I screwed up.
I'm Ramon Terrell, my pen name RJ Terrell because it's easier. An actor as well as a writer.
He's our booth babe. Yeah, we try to get him in a hot pants and a mesh shirt, but he wouldn't go for it.
Yeah,
iZombie, the 100, he's just been on a couple shows.
Supernatural?
Supernatural, yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I have 2 books published. The sequel to one of my books and the Hunter's Moon series actually is edited by Brian, and we're working through that through the pipeline now. And yeah, it's working hard and having a blast. Hopefully you like this season of Once Upon a Time. I'm one of Robin Hood's Merry Men and Minority Report, things like that. So.
And we're all at booth 1342 Wordfire, and then Mr. David Booth tells us who you are.
Hi, I'm David. I'm your moderator, and I'm a Denver-based author. One novel, which is about to be republished from Wordfire Press in March of next year, called She Murdered Me with Science, sci-fi noir. I have over 50 short stories and several novellas. Some of those are in media tie-ins you might recognize, like The Green Hornet, Veronica Mars. I've co-writing with Peter Wax, who's working on Heroes Reborn, and Kevin J. Anderson, and I wrote a mech story that will be out later this year, so if you liked Pacific Rim, you'll like that one. So this panel, when I first conceived of it, was very loose and very tongue-in-cheek, and actually kind of embarrassing for most of the authors up here, which is good, because you guys are out there, you're struggling sometimes, and you think that you're the only ones who get rejection letters. You think you're the only ones who've made mistakes. I can guarantee if you've ever sent a query letter to an editor and forgot to replace the previous editor's name before sending it to the new editor's name, you're not alone.
Or agent.
Yeah, or the agent, yes.
I've invited people to anthologies with the wrong name because I use a form and forgot.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got a nice little letter. I don't know who this person is, But thank you for your query letter. I'm not interested.
I got back, I'm Mercedes Lackey, but I didn't write those books. I think you're looking for Elizabeth Moon. Oh yeah, no, I'm looking for you too, sorry. So it happens.
Yeah, so you're not alone. So let's talk about your first ever rejection letter. What did it feel like for you, first of all? Did you think that it was, you were going to give up, or did you think that it fueled the fire to send it out again? BTS.
It was quite obvious to me that these people were complete idiots and don't know a good story. Wait to see one.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
Of course.
Obviously, they were completely and utterly wrong, and my book was brilliant, and I'm a genius.
Sort of like that Snoopy cartoon.
You did say tongue in cheek, right?
Yes, oh, very much so, yes. Yeah, the Snoopy cartoon where he says, "No, you misunderstood. I expected you to buy my manuscript and send me a check for $50,000.
That's right, gosh darn it. Where's that check? I'm still waiting.
Yes. Neil?
Oh, well, since I started more on the Hollywood side of things, in screenwriting, my first round of query letters went out for screenplays, and I sent some even to, because I thought I just could, I sent some to the studios even. So I actually got a letter back from Warner Studios, and it was sent certified mail, and I missed it at the door, and then I had to go to the post office to pick it up. In my head, I'm like, they would never send it certified mail to reject me. I swear that's what I thought the whole way to the post office. And turns out, they sent it certified mail to extra reject me, to make sure that they knew that I understood that I had totally broken every possible rule, and that you could never do that. So, and the letter was very almost like from a lawyer standpoint of do not do this, you are in violation. Lots of scary words. It's scary.
We want to confirm legally
Yes.
that you have been.
We want to make sure that you know from our legal department to never do that again. So, yeah.
We have a person carving your name on a stone wall.
Your name is on the wall, and if you approach the studio gate, you will be shot on sight.
So, pretty boy, have you ever been rejected?
So
writing, because we know you weren't rejected any other way.
Because I've seen his very beautiful wife, so I mean, he's conquered rejection, whatever that is.
Oh yes, it takes a lot of rejection to be able to deal with rejection.
A lot.
And I get a double dose from the writing and the acting side. For my first manuscript, mine was kind of a backhanded rejection, because they sent it back and they were like, thank you for your candor in that, saying that it's your first manuscript, and you've obviously put a lot of work into this, and and it shows. But unfortunately, we're not acquiring new authors at this time. That was probably a really nice way of saying, don't quit your day job with a Bob's your uncle smile. But
what a son of a bitch. God, what kind of rejection is that?
that's a nice one.
Yeah,
That was pretty.
I get things like, no, you didn't need to tell us it was your first manuscript. We knew.
And never tell them it's your first
Please, for the love of God.
Turns out, don't tell them.
Writing
it's
is
your first.
not your calling.
Yeah.
Please, for the love of God,
Yes,
spare
exactly.
us this.
Yeah.
What the heck? Why are you on this panel? No. Look, let me
Well,
give you.
it's a good thing Peter's not on it, because Peter Wax, our managing editor, he actually had his first 7 things accepted.
Oh my God.
Straight out. He didn't get his first rejection until his 8th submission. And he's like, oh, so that's what you guys have been talking about. So, yeah.
All right, let me give you guys.
Stuff is flying.
Throw it back. I'm the editor. You can throw it back.
Yeah, I know.
You wanted to throw it at me when I was
I'm
editing
in
your
the
book,
middle.
so go
I'm
ahead.
in the middle.
I'm gonna wait until I can aim it with the heart.
Seriously though, as an editor, let me give you the other perspective, because I'm the one who rejects people now.
Yes.
Look, there's nothing in the world that I want more as an editor than just to get a great story that I can't put down. Okay? Because believe me, I might as well be cleaning out septic tanks when I'm reading my slush pile. There is a lot of shit floating by. Okay? I do not enjoy reading bad stories. I enjoy reading good stories. That's the reason I became an editor. That's why I'm in this business. I don't like rejecting you, which is why I don't do open calls very often, because I know what it's like to get a blanket rejection, and it sucks. So I want to give feedback. There are some stories I don't give very much feedback on. I edit as I read, I print things out, and I write stuff out. So If I don't get very far, you may only get a couple pages with a couple little notes and start here, or apply this throughout. That'll make your story a lot better. But if I finish the story, you'll get quite a few notes, because I basically do a line copy edit as I read the story, and then I type that into the computer and send it off to you. I do that because I know what it feels like. Now, I'm not going to do that for your whole novel, by the way, I'm reading your novel, but I'm saying that generally in short stories, which I edit more of, that's how it works. I will then often, if I have time, write you an editorial letter where I tell you what the basic main issues you need to work on. Like, I did for Ramon, he got one. Here's things you want to apply throughout, and there's various little individual notes in here as well. Repeated words will always be highlighted yellow. I won't even often tell you repeated them. I'll just highlight them for you so you can see that there's 15 uses of that word on one page, or 6 in a paragraph. That should be your clue. But I try to give feedback. So there's nothing I like more than having an author turn back around like Neo did and send me a book that has been much improved because he took my notes. But my job is to help you. My job is to force you to make the book better. My job is not to say, oh my God, you're the greatest thing that's ever lived. Oh my God, I'm not picking favorites. Oh yeah, you're ugly.
Wow, he's got a...
So Brian, give us an idea.
I'm not. We're giving Ramon a hard time, but he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, so that's why we do that. But look, the point is, that's not my job. My job is to, even if I work for you, even if you hire me, the difference between me working for Kevin or Wordfire or Bayan and editing you, and the difference me editing you that you work for, is you can basically say, you're full of shit and not do any of my edits. You still have to pay me. You can do that. But when I'm being paid by somebody else, I can say, you either do these edits or your story is not going to get bought. Okay, that's the difference, okay? And Andy Weir will tell you, if you ever ask him, he told me when he sold his book 6 months later, those edits I didn't do that you told me to do? Yeah, they made me do them for Crown. I'm like, well, hey, they paid you $1 million, you came out ahead. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. So for the first, all I'm trying to say is, editors are not rejecting you because they want to hurt you. They have a job to do, and unfortunately it involves rejection.
Well, and sometimes it's just strictly a numbers game too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You of course have talked with editors at Bain, Tor, and all these other major companies about how many manuscripts does an editor sit down to in, say, a week? Would you say, Brian?
I can speak for myself. I mean, I don't know how much they get through as many as they can. Most people are looking at least 2 novel manuscripts a day. If I'm doing short stories, I can read 30 or 40 of them in a day. I mean, that's a lot. And I can tell you that, prime example, if I got, I don't mean to pick on Ramon in a negative way, but since I've been so nice to him, I will now. Look, the first thing I said when I heard I was getting Ramon's book that I was in, he's like, oh, God damn it, not another vampire story. Guys, vampires are a dime a dozen, and zombies are a dime a dozen. And they bore the crap out of me at this point, because I've seen them. You better have a unique way of doing them. It's not because I dislike a particular author, it's just I've seen a million of them, okay? I've seen a million of the aliens come down to Earth and they put people in a zoo story. For the love of God, don't send me another one of those. I'm looking for something unique, I'm looking for something different, but I was paid to edit his book, so I edited his book and I helped him hopefully make it better, and I looked at it, and he's got a good book, he's got a good story there, he's got some unique elements. I hopefully pointed out some ways he could add things to that, make that better, but that's not a reflection negatively on Ramon at all. That's just the nature of the beast. So there's a numbers game. There are people like, I just don't want another vampire novel.
Or hang myself real quick, I'll be back.
Or I have rejected perfectly good stories from an anthology that somebody sent. Like say David Booth sends me a story and it's this, and I get another story by George R. R. Martin. It's the same kind of concept. Guess what? David's story may be better, but I'm taking George's. You know why? Because I can put George's big on the front of my anthology and sell buttloads of books. And guess what? The publisher expects me to do that.
And just so we know, that this of course has happened. I have written a better story than George R. R. Martin. Just nobody knows it yet.
I said I was using you as an example. I'm not going to,
Well, yeah, but we all lie for a living,
okay.
So I know how that works. So, one of the things that we run into as writers is that every place you submit to has almost unspoken rules, that there's no way you can know that, like Brian, that he just read 5 vampire stories and you're the 6th one, and it doesn't matter how good it is, he is done reading vampire stories. But there are a lot of spoken rules, the guidelines that most publishers put together. Have any of you ever been rejected, or did a dope moment when you realized afterwards that you had missed something that was very important on their guidelines?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Try to do as much research as you can. Get to the company website, figure out what types of stuff they publish, and don't send them something totally way outside of their box, like, oh, I have this romantic mushy thing, and they only do science fiction.
Including panelists, how many people in this room think you're special?
Well, duh. Yes, everybody.
Raise your freaking hand.
I have low self-esteem. I have low self-esteem. I'm not
You're
special.
not special. You don't want to follow my guidelines, then fuck you. I'm not trying to be rude, but the reality of it is this, you know what? I have those guidelines for you not because I'm some big bastard, but because it makes my life easier, and maybe I have to turn it into the publisher using those guidelines, and I don't have time to reformat all the stories, so I ask you to save me time before it comes in. Or I have those guidelines because I have cataracts in one eye, and it's hard for me to read if you don't put it in a certain format, and it just makes it easier. That's the truth. I'm joking around with the FU and all that stuff. Yeah, seriously, guys, there are reasons we have those guidelines. You don't get to be the exception. I've sent stories back to big name authors and said, okay, now can you please put it in this format and send it back to me?
I mean, sometimes those guidelines are even there just to see if you actually will pay attention.
Exactly.
And if you don't, then they're like, well, you're not paying attention enough for us to even work with you. So
details matter.
Yeah,
Attention to details matter. That's impressive.
They'll add some random thing in there, like you need to put this up in the one corner or something.
Yeah.
Like, what?
The one I hate the most is the publishing houses that want documents sent in RTX format. And like everybody else takes doc.
What, RTF?
Yeah, RTF. That's what I meant to say.
Well, yeah.
You're not going to like me then.
Yeah, no.
Just
But no, a lot.
You know
Yeah.
why? You want to know why you want to automatically start sending everything RTF? Let me tell you why. Because on a Mac, I can read it looks exactly the same, and on a PC, I can look exactly the same. If you do not, and if you're writing on a Mac and you send me on a PC a .doc, it can get all screwed up in translation. And you know what? You don't want me looking at your story when it's all screwed up, because I might assume you don't know how to format a manuscript, and it's an automatic rejection. That's why, David.
Yeah.
So I
No,
know,
I'm not-
I know people find that annoying, but that's the reason.
Well, yeah,
Let's just
and
say
that's one of the
RTF
mistakes
instead
that
of
I make is I will miss that in a guideline, because if I get a story back, then I'm basically scraping off the serial number and sending it out to the next publisher, and sometimes I will just miss that RTF versus doc thing, or
Well, that's why before you scrape off the serial number and send it on, you got to check the guidelines and make sure you make whatever adjustments. Truthfully, it's usually pretty easy. There are only a few people with really anal guidelines. I keep mine very simple, and I'm not going to reject you because you sent me an RTF rather than a doc if I can read the doc. If the formatting's all screwed up and say, you know what, send this back to me in RTF because I can't read it like this, I might do that.
But some editors might reject you just because of that.
Some will, and they can. They get thousands of submissions. Why should they give a crap? I mean, seriously, it's not their job to impress you. Your job is to impress them.
Mm.
So let's talk about stalking editors for a moment. All right, and you don't get to answer on this one, BTS, because
that's why you're sitting down there.
Yeah, because you're the stalky. We're gonna stalk you for a moment. Okay, so you're gonna submit to Brian here, and he's got an open submission call. What do you think is important to know about him before you submit a story to him?
Well, first of all, you want to find out what he reads. You want to find out what he edits for. If he's a editor, say for instance at Tor, you probably don't want to send him like a romance or true crime or something. You know what I mean? You want to know what the houses are. Look at the things
What genre they're doing.
the genres. You want to look at what he edits, and don't send him the opposite of that, because that's immediately they're going to be like, why in the world do you even know what you're doing? For sure know what their body of work is and what direction they're pointed in.
Yeah, and before I submit to anybody, I always Google them to find out as much as I can, any company or anything, just to get a general idea or to even see what other people might be saying. Of course, that's gets tough on the internet because some people are like, he rejected my story, so he's evil, you know. And I mean, so it's just a matter of really knowing as much as you can so that you can craft your query letter even a little bit to have some personal element versus just copy and paste the same one over and over. So, because then it's...
don't Google you?
Yeah, I'm sure you did. That's cool. I'm cool with that. Everybody can Google me.
Actually, I'm sorry to cut you off. I actually have an aside note that I want to add to that because
Let me add one thing. You said the first thing you want to do is know what the genre is.
That's what my side
The
note
first thing you
is.
want to do is know my freaking name and spell it correctly.
Yeah, don't misspell
I'm not
their name.
kidding, people. If you can't have the courtesy to bother yourself to spell my name correctly,
Brian with a Y.
seriously, that's the first clue right there.
So first, I'm the victim. I'm the victim unwittingly of both of these. One, my phone auto-corrected before I pressed send. Okay, so I'm just gonna say that. I knew it was a Y, and it came out as an I.
Autocorrect is
Apologized like
evil.
10 times.
That's why we read everything before
Second,
we press
I
send.
wasn't talking about you specifically. I'd forgotten that, but thanks for reminding me.
posted on Facebook.
You did, actually. Oh, that was you.
Yeah, it was me. This guy's like, well, I'm glad I wasn't the jerk that did that. I'm like, yeah, that was
That's because I get that a million times. It wasn't because you just happened to be the trigger that made me say, oh, I should remind people of this shit again.
Yeah, don't misspell people's names.
Nobody had to
your
know
auto.
it was you, man. Nobody had to know.
The second thing is, when I said know what they read, my book was already in the pipelines with my publisher before they gave it to him. So under normal circumstances, I would have not sent him a vampire book, knowing that he didn't want to read it, but they sent it to him, and that's why. So.
No. Look. I edit whatever book comes across my desk when I'm working for a publisher. And if I get vampire submissions, I read those stories. I'm just telling you that, yeah, there definitely are people who have put it out there publicly. I do not want this, and you should not send them the wrong book.
Well, you get interviewed quite often by different blogs and websites, and you have your own. You know, you post a lot on your Facebook feed, and Twitter, and stuff like that.
Me?
Yeah. So I mean, you know, you have made it very clear over the years the type of things you enjoy. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah, I do that for a reason, because I want to make it easier for writers.
So do your
I'm not doing that
research.
to be an ass. I'm doing that because let's just save some time here, folks.
Do your research.
Yeah,
Search your editors, research.
And I do the same
companies.
research when I'm shopping anthologies to publishers or to editors, or I'm shopping my own novels, so it's not like I don't do it at the same time.
Let's talk about the first 3 pages, because the first 3 pages of either a short story or a book is going to make or break. You know, it's like when they say about dating. You know, within the first 10 seconds, a significant other, you know, or an opposite sex is going to know whether or not they're interested in you. And it's very similar in publishing, that within the first 3 pages, sometimes within the first 3 paragraphs even, that you're going to, the editor is going to know. What are some of the common mistakes you guys have made in the first 3 pages that you desperately avoid now?
Typos.
What's that?
Typos.
Typos.
Typos and misspelled words, those are just red flags. But
Misspelling my own name.
misspelling the editor's name, yes.
Misspelling my own name is the author.
Or forgetting to put your own name on it.
Or forgetting to put your name on.
Who is this?
When I read a story, if this is a story, this is how much you got to hook me. If you don't hook me, I'm done. I ain't reading the rest. I'm done. That's it.
And something else too is
So
oh, go ahead.
it better be good. Now, so you wanna know to definitely not make those basic mistakes in those first few pages. I'm not gonna kill your story because you have a few typos. They happen, but you better have a few typos. All right. You better not have a lot. I don't care if you're dyslexic. I don't care if you've got a thing. I don't care. Find somebody to read it for you. Just because you're dyslexic, there's no excuse. I know major authors like Blake Charlton and who writes the Kalen series from Tor? What's his name? Terry Goodkind. They are dyslexic authors. That's why they have editors.
Dyslexic author.
Okay, that's why they have friends who read them. Oh, that explains so much.
It explains everything about
That's
me.
why Neo needed me. I mean, so I don't remember having those kind of problems with
Well,
you.
that was already resolved way before it got to you.
But the reality of it is, yeah, there's no excuse for that. It's professionalism or not professionalism. If you know you need the extra help, get the extra help. So make it polished, and also make it tight. You know, those are the mistakes. People have real loose stuff. With short stories in particular, with a novel, you have more time to let it unfold. But with a short story, by the time I'm done with the first page and a half, I better know who the main character is and what the problem they have to solve in that story is. If I don't know that, you've got a story problem. I mean, it's like, I'll use David Boop here as an example. What did I tell you about your story? I said you started in the wrong place. You need to cut this first scene and start here. That was why. Because you kind of did some stuff that introduced stuff, and it was interesting on a character level, but it wasn't getting us into the story soon enough. And it's not a big deal. A lot of authors do that from time to time. I did it with Michael Flynn on his story for this. I said, hey, Mike, your first paragraph is actually this. Move this paragraph somewhere else. He did, and the story was better. He looked at it and said, I can't believe I didn't notice that.
I think a lot of people want to start out painting a really big portrait of the world that they're starting in, and it's like they're describing every little thing that's there to the point where you're like, what is this story about? It's a really beautiful planet, but come on, what's there? Like, who is there and who are we following? So.
You making the mistake of admiring authors that can get away with that because they have a body of work behind them. You can't start off like Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time if you're a first novelist. You know, an editor is probably going to have a little more patience with Robert Jordan unfolding that world versus a first novelist that sends their first book in and you're taking the first 50 pages to just create, like you say, paint this tapestry and everything. You've got to grab them. I'm not saying throw them in the middle of a battle where it's just all confusion, but you've got to grab them.
Definitely hit the ground.
Yeah, you can't start off with God created the universe on the third day if you have a 3,000 word story. You know, I mean, unless the story is about God creating on the third day.
Unless you're going to write about the third day. That would be actually a funny.
It was a very interesting day. You know, it's like created the universe, then went to Starbucks.
It's a comedy.
You know what? You start a story. God created the universe on the third day. It was the fourth day when he knew he'd made a big mistake. That, man, I'm going to think, hey, this is going to be an interesting story.
That's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, I like this.
Douglas Adams did it.
We're all going to like to write that story. No,
God created the earth and generally thought it was a really bad idea.
Neil, what is the first rule of screenwriting when you're writing a scene?
To start late in the scene and to leave early.
Get into the scene as late as possible, get out as soon as you can after that, okay? You don't start with, hey Neil, how are you?
Yeah, hey, what's up, dude?
How's the family?
Oh, it's good.
Great weather today, huh?
No, I thought the rule was it had to have Scarlett Johansson or Hugh Jackman.
No, you start with, God damn it, Neil, I told you to fix this stuff in your book. Why didn't you listen to me? They paid me to edit you for a reason. That's the beginning of the scene.
There you go.
Okay? That's more interesting. It's more dramatic. It sucks us in, okay?
Yes, exactly.
That was a fake scene.
Yeah, it's cool.
Neo's over there twitching.
I still love you, man.
Okay, man.
Yeah. If you've ever been through BTS editing, you go to PTS afterward.
Don't say that. I'm actually told I'm one of the nicest.
Oh, he's a very nice editor.
But look, guys, seriously, I did that as an example. It's dramatic, okay? It gets us right in there, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't need all that junk, okay? Now, yes, in real life, people do all that stuff. I mean, you do a phone call. You don't do hello and stuff. You go, she called her mom. And mom, I need blah, 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 blah. You get right into it, right into the heart of it, okay? Because otherwise it's just slow and boring. The reader doesn't want to sit through. Oh my God, every time a character meets somebody, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. What's up? Hey, oh, you're hanging out with that Ramon again. What the hell's wrong with you? That kind of crap. Nobody cares about any of that. It's just the basic,
Think about how your eyes gloss over or how your brain kind of goes into autopilot when you're reading something and they've gone a little too far with the exposition, with the description. Just think about that. You know what I mean? When you're reading, you're like,
and there's nobody I've edited this table who has not gotten those notes from me.
Sure,
of
course.
And I have gotten those notes too, okay? It's not, I'm not gonna stand here like I'm superior somehow. I get those notes too. It's probably the number one mistake.
So let's talk about the secret of white space. You know, have you guys watched your borders for white space?
Most authors don't think about that, but that's a good point, David. Look, when you read a book, like the standard pages of a book, look, you can take note of the white space, okay? We're talking about the space that's not filled with words, the space where there's tabs, okay? Or different things, okay? There's a certain look to it. Notice how there's no page without some tabs, okay? And that there's some pages that are broken up. This is probably not the right story because that is not the best spot. But there's some pages that are broken up with more little bits of dialogue that tend to move faster, and some that have more longer pages of description. That is something that a typesetter and an editor and a publisher pay more attention to than most writers. But it affects the reading flow. When you're reading a dialogue page, the story tends to move a lot faster. When you're reading long descriptions, it can get bogged down, which is why we always tell you not to info dump and to break things down. Your mind starts to shut off, you start to slow down, you start to lose attention, and you start to lose interest. So white spaces are important. I don't know what you were going to say.
So we're talking
No,
about,
no, I was
are we
exactly
talking about
what
giant blocky paragraphs that
Yeah.
fill the length of a page?
Yeah, info, yeah, you hit the word
Giant.
info dumps, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. You only need to, how not to get published, learn to tell everybody everything right now. That's how not to get published. What you really need to do is tell me what I need to know to get through that scene, okay? I don't need to know anything. Like don't describe the whole house and the layout of all the rooms to me. Describe the rooms I need to know to get to where we are. In this room, maybe, he came in through the foyer and he went into the dining room. There was a large table in the middle of the room with 8 chairs surrounding it. It looked antique. The wood had a special shine, but they were a little worn around the edges. He sat down at the table. He'd sat there a million times, but this was different. That's all I need to have some setting for it, okay? I don't need to know that he looked to the right where there was a door to the kitchen. The kitchen was laid out like this. It looked like a blast from the 70s, blah, 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 blah. He looked to the left. There was a door that led off into his father's den. God, he hated that. That was the only place he ever got lectures when he was a kid. Oh, look, he looked to down the hall from that were the stairs. It took him up to the 5 bedrooms. And they are described like this. Then there was a light. You don't need all that. I get books like that all the time, but you don't need that. Now, later when he goes to those rooms, then you tell me the first bedroom was off of the stairs leading out of the den, just outside the den that led up to the second level. Then I need to know that, not all.
If we look at Harry Potter, we're told about the room under the stairs, and then we don't know anything else about the house in that first. Well, that's not the first chapter, but it's the first chapter with Harry. So we learn about the room under the bedroom under the stairs. It's not until much later that we learn about Dudley's room and how it's basically 2 rooms, that one of them should have been Harry's, but Dudley needed a room for his toys and things like that. So we don't get that until much later. We get just the room that Harry's in, and that's important. Okay, 2 things I want to hit on really quick, and then we're going to take some questions. Passive voice. How do you identify it? How do you find it and excise it?
Oh boy, I could do a whole lecture on that. Okay.
Just real quick, what are some things you look for?
If you can add, for instance, just as an example, if you can add "by zombies," you've probably got some passive voice. His shirt was taken off by zombies. If you can add "by" something, that means that you that's one of the ways you can see you're going into passive.
Let me make it simple. If you write it and it includes was or were, it's passive. All right. Now you can't avoid that in description, but if it's a was ing or a were followed by a verb with an ing, a gerund form, it's passive. All right. And Ramon was walking up toward the panel. Okay, he was. When did that take place? It's not right now necessarily. It could be right now, like a few minutes ago he was walking up toward the panel, or it could have been 3 days ago. We don't know. That's passive, okay? Ramon walked toward the panel. All right, right now that's happening. It's pretty instantaneous. That's the difference between passive and active, okay? And you can use some passive, but you should use it very discreetly, and you should know why you're using it and when you're using it. Mostly in fiction prose, we want active, because we want things to be feeling dramatic. They're happening right now.
Neo, setisms.
I was going to say Word in Auto, in Word, Microsoft Word, there is an option in spell correct and grammar check that will identify passive sentences. And I always run it and I find them and then I rewrite them.
But the other thing is, there's
So they don't sound-
words that everybody uses, like
Swear to God.
he felt, felt, touched. These kind of words that are actually often very passive, and they're words that are telling words, not showing words. He felt the knife